Hello, loves. This is your February soul message. And completely by accident, I have my sweater on with the heart. Happy Valentine's. All right. Where are we going to begin here? The title of February is Expanding Hearts. And honestly, I wanted to call it Exploding Hearts because that's what it feels like. But the image that I was shown is, so imagine the shape of a heart, right? And on the top of the heart is like this swelling, and it's kind of pulsing. And so, yeah, I wanted to call it Exploding Hearts, but I don't want to conjure the image of heart attack because that's not what we're going for. But it's a higher octave awareness, and it's also the expanding of, let me just get it, auric field, energy field, vibration, frequency, and we're learning as a whole to expand. And the, ultimate goal here is to hold more capacity for love, for light, for joy, for gratitude, for abundance, for all the things, right? And here's the thing. There's a quote, I actually don't even know who this woman is, and I ran across this quote years ago. Cheryl Paul, I have no idea who she is. But the quote is, pain and joy live in the same chamber of the heart. So when you squash the pain, you limit the joy. And that is the essence of February and going forward. This is just like, each month is like I'm reporting on the energy that's coming through, and it's the next iteration of the thing. But ultimately, we're learning to expand, hold more light, hold more love, hold more capacity, hold more compassion for ourselves and others, and allow everything to exist rather than doing this thing that we want to do as humans that kind of our fear, our judgment, our egos do, and we're taught in society to do it too, but is to judge and push away everything that we don't want to experience, everything that doesn't feel good. And so we want to push it and categorize it over here and or compartmentalize it. And when we do that, we limit the joy that's attached in equal measure. So it's like, if you could hold the capacity for this, and then you say, well, I can't accept this, this, and this, and this. And then suddenly the container that you're living in is so much smaller because you can't accept this, this, and this, and this. And then you also lose out on the joy that's attached to all of that too. So it really limits your capacity for love, honestly, and for allowing the light and currency and energy to flow through you. So that's kind of the gist for this month, is there's this swelling and this capacity, and also, what does this require? Well, it requires feeling a lot of stuff that when you limit and you shrink in, you don't feel. I think we push that away because it conjures up feelings that we don't know what to do with, we're not used to dealing with, in terms of we haven't built the tolerance and the muscle to hold difficult feelings. And I think some of it comes from, certainly childhood, when your parents or adults around you could not handle the, I'm almost seeing like a live wire, like a, what's that saying about Virgos? Sensitive as a severed nerve. And it's like, children are like severed nerves, and they feel everything and they express everything. And adults, I think, particularly when we're in this mode of, well, I've got work to do and I've got shit to do and I've got to manage all this stuff so that I can get everything done so that I can eventually sit down and relax. And so we can tend to compartmentalize all that's going on to kind of get through it. But what a sad existence. How sad if we're living our lives in the way of just getting through it. And I think children are such a beautiful gift in this because they are live wires, and they express everything that they're feeling, but then also having the experience of being a child, you know that oftentimes adults want to say, well, you shouldn't feel that way, or you should feel this way, or you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do that. And often it's because it's bringing up discomfort in the adults, and the child is feeling or expressing the truth of who they are or what they're experiencing in that moment, even if it's a stubbed toe or, a broken limb or something. It's like they're expressing that. But I think we squash it because you agree? I think we squash it because we haven't developed the muscle of the capacity to hold that expansion of energy within us. And so we shut it down in our children, or we shut it down in whomever's expressing, right? Because it activates that part in us. So I hate to tell you, but this is where we're going in the future. And we're just going to be called more and more and more into our feelings, because as we come back into expanding and we start to stretch and grow and live into all those parts that we've compartmentalized out of existence, we then have to feel the feelings that we didn't feel the first time that it came around and we buried it, right? And there's joy and love and passion and, freedom and happiness and all of that too, because it's attached to that. But I'm just saying, whether it's joy or grief or, pain or happiness, whatever it is, as we're growing, we're being called into greater experiences of all of it. And it's going to start to become more the norm, that we have to learn. It almost feels like we have to learn new coping mechanisms or coping strategies, because we have to start learning to be with ourselves and to be with that emotion in ourselves and in others. And when we grow a deeper capacity to hold it in ourselves, then we will have a greater capacity to hold it for others and with others, and vice versa. So, there's that beautiful mirroring effect of like, oh, okay, someone in my life is expressing something and I don't really like, but if I can sit here and hold space for it, I'm growing it in myself. It's kind of like, I've said over and over and over again, if you can hold a difficult pose on the yoga mat, you can hold a difficult pose in life. It's that same kind of tandem experience where they're kind of mirroring each other. And I'm just going to check my notes here. So fullness at the top of the heart, we have to feel all of it. And then there's a need to learn a greater capacity for tolerance. And that's again where we're going to, because, we've been so polarized, this black and white thinking, but 99% of life is in the gray. It's in the middle. It's, I'm right and I'm wrong. You're right and you're wrong, and there's so much nuance that we have to sift through to get to the truth that lives at the center of that thing. And so a couple things that I suggested for focusing on this month because of this. Pay attention. I can't read my own writing and I need glasses. Pay attention to your beliefs. So this is really interesting. And we know the theory of like manifestation and, what you think about, you bring about, like all of those kind of things. But this is becoming more and more and more true. And it's becoming more and more rapid. So, we live in a matrix, and whatever we are thinking about or believing, so they're both there, we project that onto the movie screen of our psyche. This is, on the movie screen of our third eye, we're projecting that image there. And then as we project it like a hologram, it comes up around us, and that is the reality that we set in motion. That's the reality that we set in place. So if we're terrified of something, we're literally magnetizing that thing that we're terrified of towards us, and vice versa. So, you want to be in the highest and best version of what it is that you want to bring about, even if you don't know how it's going to happen and you don't believe that it can happen. That's another, there's an inside job where you have to start working on your beliefs. And that's where you can, kind of fake it till you believe it. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to say this mantra, or it's actually more important than saying a mantra to bring the frequency of that thing that you're wanting to create into fruition. And bring that frequency into your being so that you're vibrating that out. So paying attention to your beliefs is really important right now as we're co-creating and building this capacity. If I don't think that I'm capable of doing X, Y, or Z, then I'm not capable of it by the sheer fact that I'm believing that that's what's true. But if I believe, well, maybe I'm not sure how to do it, but I do believe in my capacity to learn, okay, great, you've shifted the whole dynamic there. The second one is slow down and tune in. So this is almost on the level of daily practice. So I've been doing something that one of my teachers, Amanda Flaker, if you don't follow her and you're interested in intuition, manifesting, all those kind of things, she's phenomenal. Go check her out. But she was teaching this thing in one of the courses that I was taking with her, is just to tune in the morning. And she talks about doing it in the Trinity, but I say start with one. Just start with once a day. Like, don't overburden yourself at first. So what I've been doing is just in the morning, putting my hand on my heart and tuning in and asking, where am I vulnerable and what do I need today? And I feel in my body, where in my body do I feel vulnerable? Maybe it's physical, maybe it's attached to an emotion. And then I ask, what do I need to support myself today? And so it's this way of slowing down and tuning in and learning to pace yourself. One of the great lies of this matrix that we live in, and one of the great lies of this planet, is the programming that exists on this planet, not the truth of it, is that there isn't enough space and there isn't enough time. And so we have to be rushed. And then we have a linear calendar that shows us that, oh my God, well, I didn't get that done yesterday and that was the due date and da 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 da. I don't know if nature has a due date. I think it has cycles. And if we were actually in tune with Mother Nature and we were moving on the lunar calendar, everything would just make a whole lot more sense. But anyways, that's for a different day. So slowing down and tuning in. And then the last one is letting it be messy. So I talked about this in January. I talked about it in December. I talked about it in November, I'm sure. But this Pluto transit from Capricorn into Aquarius, if you have not heard me talk about this, you can go look it up anywhere to learn more about it. But we have moved out of Pluto and Capricorn now, and we've moved into Pluto and Aquarius. And the reason that this is so important and so significant, Pluto is the planet of transformation, number one, life, death, rebirth cycles, and it's the planet of power, where we've lost it and where we're to take it back. And it's just been unplugged from Capricorn energy, which I'm seeing it as like being unplugged from capitalistic society, climbing up the ladder, working for someone else, big corporations, all of this kind of stuff, kind of being overlords of us. And it's just plugged into Aquarius, which is the symbol of energy and entrepreneurialism and unique thinking, and everyone offering their unique gift to the world for the greater whole in a much more humanitarian minded way. And so in that, we're learning to get out of our ego, step off of our friggin' pedestals, realize that it's a circle, not a ladder. We're all equal. We're all sitting at different points on the circle. It's not a competition. And there's some grief in that, because if you have invested a lot of your life, which most people have, in this capitalistic, like, I have to own this, this, and this, I have to have this status in order to be enough or okay. And by the way, those people are not enough or okay. It doesn't make life easier. Yeah, sure, it might be more comfortable, but it doesn't make you happy. It's connection, it's truth, it's heart-led life, it's living on purpose, it's giving your unique gift to the world, having reflection and witness. All of those things are the things that actually create happiness and connection with others. So anyways, I won't go on any more about that, but the Pluto thing, why I say let it be messy, let me come back to that, is because it's a massive tectonic plate shift. And it takes a minute to get adjusted, It's like we have to, my cat is losing it right now. I swear to God, before I even sat down to do this, it's like my kid's making food. I have to wait for her to be done. It's just like life does not, it's just not what you want always. You know, it's not on our schedule. We have to just go with it. Okay, so those are the three things to focus on. And then let me talk about the oil, and then I'll get into the card. So the oil, it's so perfect how spirit works and how this works, because I just ordered the feelings kit last month, and this oil happened to be in the feelings kit. And I was like, oh, you can't make this shit up, that this is the oil. And it started coming several days before I even sat down to do this. But I'm sorry to tell you, it's forgiveness. And part of the reason why it's forgiveness is because as we're going through this shift and this change and this adjustment, it's like we have to let down the walls in our heart that we erected to judge other people so that we feel better about ourselves. Because if they're doing it wrong, that means we're doing it right. And then we can feel safe and comfortable, but we're not safe and comfortable because it protects nothing. And so then we're still anxious, we're still depressed, we're still wired, you know, we're still live wires losing it, and it's not helping anything. So forgiveness, not only the oil, but the energy of forgiveness is being called for, because we have to forgive ourselves, number one, for totally believing lies and being on the hamster wheel that the world told us to get on. We have to grieve the fact that we erected walls that we thought were keeping us safe, but they were actually only keeping us separate. So we have to grieve all of that. We have to forgive ourselves for not knowing before. We have to forgive ourselves for judging ourselves and others. I mean, we have to forgive ourselves for so much, right? And then there's this beautiful kind of figure eight as I see it. Like when you forgive yourself, you forgive others. When you forgive others, you forgive yourself. They're inextricably connected. It's like you can't separate one from the other. And I think we really struggle with forgiveness because a lot of us associate forgiveness with that means I'm saying it's okay what you did to me. And that's not what it's saying. Forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you. And forgiveness is I'm forgiving them for what they did, or I'm forgiving it's that saying from the Bible, forgive them for they know not what they do. Because most people, when they harm others, they're not intending to harm, they're intending to protect themselves and keep themselves safe. And so when they're doing that, then they inflict harm sometimes, often on themselves. But it's not, so what I'm saying is it's not the action that they did that we're forgiving. We're forgiving, really, gosh, it's kind of double-sided. It's like we're forgiving ourselves for holding a grudge against them and for being angry at them for doing that thing to us or hurting us. But the bitch about forgiveness is that when we don't do it, what we're doing is they have no idea that we're angry or upset, but we're carrying around resentment and judgment and hate. And we're the ones that have to carry that. So it's that saying of like drinking poison and hoping someone else is going to die. They're not affected by it at all, but we are. And that's why we need to forgive, because we're really ultimately saying, you know what, this resentment, this hate, this judgment, this kind of vitriol, I'm not going to carry it anymore. I'm just going to set it down. It's like suitcases. I'm just going to friggin' set it down because it's harming me. And that's what this oil is really here to help us do. And I'm going to say it again. I've said it before, but when you use essential oils, when you place them on your body, when you diffuse them, you are borrowing the nervous system of those plants that know how to do what they do exquisitely, uniquely, and perfectly. And they're teaching us how to do that. So I don't normally do but I'm going to read a little bit out of my book, not specifically about forgiveness, but about one of the oils in this blend. This is a super powerful blend, and I'll just read just a few of the oils. Melissa is the oil of light. Geranium is the oil of love and trust. Frankincense is the oil of truth. Sandalwood is sacred devotion. Angelica is like a auric protector. Lavender is communication and calm. Ylang ylang is inner child work. It's also said to be the heart healer. And for God's sake, it has rose in it. One of the most expensive and also highest vibrating oils. It's the oil of divine love. But the one I'm going to read is Melissa. And I just barely started reading the very top of it, and I didn't read the whole thing. But I want you to have this because it feels really parallel to what we're experiencing, and it almost feels like an oracle card for us. And I only even read the first couple sentences, but I'll read the whole thing. And one thing to know about forgiveness, and this is the way with a lot of the Young Living kits, they're super, super discounted when you buy the kits. And it used to be that you could only get the kits when you're a brand new customer. It's not that way anymore. So forgiveness on its own, shoot, I wrote it in the blog. I think it's a $60 bottle. And the forgiveness kit is $200. It also includes 5 other oils. Valor is like $45 on its own. Present Time, which is the oil I'm using for my word of the year, my oil of the year, that's $100 just on its own. So it's a really good deal to get the kit, but you can get forgiveness on its own. All right, Melissa, let's just read this. Melissa oil awakens the soul to truth and light. It reminds individuals of who they truly are and why they came to this earth. Melissa invites one to release everything and anything that holds them back from reaching their fullest potential. And I think this is, I want to say it's like a $100 bottle on its own too, or maybe even more. It's one of the really high vibrating oils. Melissa assists individuals in receiving spiritual guidance by reconnecting them with their inner voice. It uplifts the soul by preparing one to ascend. When individuals feel too weighed down by the burdens of life, Melissa encourages them to keep going. It gives strength and vitality to the innermost recesses of the heart and soul. This oil invites all to participate in higher realms of living and dreaming. As they stay connected to spiritual sources, they feel lightness in their being and brightness in their core. Melissa reminds everyone that each individual has a spark of divinity within them, and with love and attention, the spark will grow. Do you see why it feels like the oracle card for February? This oil fuels that spark of energy, igniting an individual's true self. Melissa assists them in shedding everything that is not in harmony with their inner light. And this is that, it's that grief. It's like all the ways that we've held ourselves tight and limited our own growth for the fear of it and for the inability for us to hold, the capacity of it, quite honestly. Melissa's enthusiasm is contagious. Through the intense light and vibration this oil has to offer, individuals may feel they cannot help but let go of feelings of darkness, despair, and other low vibrations that are holding them down. It teaches the joy of living. I mean, I don't know what's better. But there was something else right as I was saying that I wanted to bring in, and it was this piece about forgiveness that came through for me last night. I had like this massive download about it. And it's this piece of when you're forgiving someone else, like when someone harms you, and they often don't mean to, but like I said, they're just trying to protect themselves. So they've moved out of alignment with themselves to try to protect themselves. And they've created like a disconnection, like the vibration of disconnection, because they don't like what's happening. And the act of that experience for them is extremely painful, whether they realize it or not. Like when you hold that, belief that, I can't handle going over there. I can't look outside of this tiny little box I'm living in. That is an extremely painful thing. So if you can tap into, it's not a great experience for them either to hold that level of darkness. I feel like it kind of brings in a higher capacity to kind of zoom out and hold a larger perspective for the whole thing. So, because I think we struggle with forgiveness in this way that if we forgive someone else, it means they won or what they did was okay. And, we're just doormats and victims and whatever. And that's not the case. It's, that's where it gets really nuanced, and the answer is somewhere in the middle. It's the gray area. And then before I pull a card, 2 more oils from my Apothecary. Okay, I just threw a ton of cards on the floor here. I'm not going to read all of those, so hang on a second. That just tells me to slow down and focus on the oils. Crown chakra. This is truthfully one that I don't use all that often, and I think it's the one that I have the most inventory of because of that. And because I don't talk about it, I don't promote it as much as some of the other ones. But, and it's got a ton of oils in it too. I couldn't even possibly list them all, but you can find them on my website. And so the crown chakra came to go along with this month because it's that zoomed out perspective. It's our communion and our direct connection with spirit that, by the way, you don't need a book and a building for. Everyone has access to spiritual guidance and to the essence of God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it. And so anyways, crown chakra, all right? The other one that wanted to come was Venus, and I couldn't find a bottle of it. I must have run out of my supply, so I'll have to make more, but I'm sure I have the blends to make it if you want to get it. But Venus holds, I know for sure one of the oils that's in Venus is magnolia, because that's the essence of compassion. And it's a really beautiful light oil. So any one of these would work. Crown is going to be more about that connection with, your higher self, higher wisdom, spirit guidance, all that kind of stuff. Not quite as much as intuition. That would be more the third eye. And then forgiveness and Venus are the other two. Okay, this one well, look, we still got two. All right, sorry, this soul message is going to be really long. And what do you know? One of the cards that we got was separation. And then we also got rotation. So I feel like I'm going to read separation first. And it feels like there's some dualistic energy here. So let's read that one first. And they're kind of working in tandem with one another. Well, doesn't that just make all the sense? All right. Sorry, I got to get through all the Roman numerals here to get to the one. All right. Okay, separation. Did we get two cards that are both? Yes. Okay, so in this deck, Kim Cran's Alchemy, there's a suit in the very back called the 8 Operations. And those are kind of like, the higher perspective, higher level energy of the cards, kind of the guiding principles. If you have the what's the other deck, the round one, the archetypes. Again, in the back of that deck, I think there's only 8. I can't remember how many, but it's a shorter suit. There's not. Okay, well, that was really unfortunate. My iPhone got full of memory and I had to go delete some videos to finish this. So I'm gonna have to splice it together. So anyways, it's interesting that we got 2 cards that are in the 8 Operations. So they're the higher perspective, zoomed out operating principles of this deck and of alchemy. And so we got 2 cards in there. All right, so the first one is separation. So let me get back to that card now that I had that whole kerfuffle with the video. All right, separation. Okay, differentiation, divide, to cut away. Separatio is the great alchemical operation of the sword. It occurs when substances are pulled apart from their higher good, either willingly or unwillingly. The fissure may take place suddenly with a swift blow of the axe or slowly over time with a dull blade. I mean, you can't make this shit up. It's already speaking to what I'm talking about. Substances being pulled away from their higher good. It's like we know the energy of truth and it has existed here, but then it gets pulled apart and then we believe something else because it's attached to something that we believe. It's just a whole shitstorm mess. No matter how separatio occurs, it will likely be a painful process for all involved. Images of swords and knives, battles, rebellion, breakups, divorce, and atoms splitting are expressions of separatio. The good news is that separatio prepares the individual for a more conscious union down the line. It releases stagnant energy and allows the parts to see themselves as individuals. This stage is a prerequisite for conjunctio, union, or love, which is not the other card that we got, but that's the one that comes next in the deck. Through the pain of separatio, we come to accept and love ourselves as we truly are, and in turn love the world. This is exactly what I'm talking about with the forgiveness energy. Because if you can forgive yourself, if you can, then you can love yourself, then it's easier to love others. It's easier to forgive them for their mistakes and, you know, mishandlings of things or whatever. To go deeper, listen to I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor. To ponder, is there anything that does not separate? That's interesting. Okay, language is also a way that separatio is expressed through labels, titles, and definitions. Exactly what I was talking about with judgment. Notice whether your word choices are inclusive or exclusive and adjust as necessary. It's likely there's been a hot mess in the laboratory for a while. Okay, I already talked about let it be messy. Once you're past the initial blow, which could take a long time, that's kind of where we are, like we're getting through that. And there's even a broken heart on the card. You'll be singing separatio's praises once you're past the initial blow. And so it's like, okay, grieving is not easy, right? It never is. It's painful, and we want to avoid those. Because what I'm seeing is it's not just that we want to avoid grief, it's that we try to avoid higher experiences of emotion, things that just have more potency and they're more wild and more energetic. And it's like, for God's sake, you know, we are spirit here in a human body. That's what we're here to experience. So we shouldn't try to limit it, but it's what we do. Okay, the next card is rotation with a spider on it. The wheel monotony cycles. Rotatio is the great alchemical operation of the wheel. Through its circularity, it indicates that work performed again and again and again produces results. It reminds us our efforts are cumulative, not singular, nor is the work ever fixed or finished. Rather, the alchemist rises each day to tend to the library, to weave their work into the world. It is the epitome of the alchemical axiom. This is Latin, adem mutata resurgo. Although changed, I rise the same, is what it means. Although changed, I rise the same. This operation is expressed through images of the circle, the spiral, the Ouroboros, which is the snake eating its tail, and the wheel. By its non-hierarchical shape, we are tossed back into the spin, just when we thought we had figured it all out. Though this stage can be frustrating and cause a fair amount of restlessness, it is at the heart of all spiritual practices. So it kind of makes me think of beginner's mind, like we have to come back to where we started. I was just in San Diego this weekend, and I went by a place that I worked at 30 years ago, and it looked exactly the same. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And in doing so, it was this way of like revisiting this, 21-year-old version of myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a small pup I was. Like, I had no idea that I was just at this very beginning of life, but I thought that I was so adult and I was supposed to have it all figured out. What a joke. To ponder, is there anything that does not repeat? So the other card was, is there anything that does not separate? And this one, is there anything that does not repeat? So hang on, I want to add this because there's a piece about that that's really important that is connected to the energy of February right here, is that it always comes back around. And so part of the heartbreak and the grief that we're experiencing right now is that we're chafing against and coming up against old decisions that had outcomes that maybe we don't like, and we're getting an opportunity to adjust them. This operation connects us to the element of time. Okay, I was already talking about the calendar. The alchemist learns how to use time like any other element, not to waste it, but to expand it and appreciate its gifts. If you've been repeating actions and getting the same results, this card is an opportunity to see the pattern and make a new choice spin the wheel in a new direction. 100% what I'm talking about. 100% what I'm talking about. This opportunity to change it and make it different as we're coming up against those same choices again. And in many cases, like with this job thing, I was like, oh my God, that was 30 years ago. I'm an entirely different person. And I have so much compassion for that younger version of myself that was struggling and, you know, trying to get through it and, you know, create her life. Okay. The last thing, and I know this has been long, the last thing that I want to announce is just events for the month. So this video probably won't even be up till tomorrow, so you won't even know about it, but Women's Circle is on the 2nd of February, 11/11. And let me know out there, if you're someone that would have liked to come to Women's Circle, but you need it to be later in the day or like in the evening. I used to do them at like 7 o'clock Pacific, and I stopped doing that because it's really hard for East Coasters, but I could do something like 4 o'clock on a Thursday, and then it's, you know, 5, 6, 7 o'clock on the East Coast. But anyway, so they're usually on Fridays at 11/11, but I'm open to moving them on Thursday afternoon to make space for more people to come. And you can always grab the replay, but I really don't like giving the replay out unless it's someone that's in the Wild Moon community membership or, you know, someone that I know personally, because we share, you know, personal things in there and I don't like it to just be out anywhere. Intuitive Collage is the following Friday. So, the 9th, and that's at 11/11 also. We usually try to do those on or around the new moon, and Women's Circle on or around the full moon, but it kind of got jankety this month. I think I put in another Women's Circle on the 3rd. I don't remember. You can check my website for the dates. And then we've got new moon next week. I didn't even look ahead to see, well, it should be in Aquarius. New moon, and then we've got full moon. And the new and full moon ceremonies, those are always pre-recorded and they're just audio. You don't have to watch a Zoom or anything like that. You can just listen from your phone. And those are in the shop on my website. So you can grab those. If you're not already a Young Living customer, shoot me a message, you know, whatever. I'm happy to help you with that. But the link to join under me is on my aromatherapy page. And I'm happy to help you with any of that. You can DM me on Instagram or, you know, leave a comment on YouTube, whatever, wherever you see this. And I'm happy to help you with that, or finding an oil for the year, or for some specific issue that you have coming up. So whatever you need, I'm here for that. Love you. Have a wonderful February. I'm sorry this message was so long, and also we're working on expanding our capacity, are we not? And one of the things, I'm going to end with this, that I know I experienced as a child, and many of us that are empaths, sensitives, intuitives probably experienced also, or just in general, is the feeling, the reflection that you received back is the message that you are too much. And when we receive that message back that we are too much, then we learn to self-edit and we limit ourselves. And this energy right here, with Pluto moving into Aquarius and, you know, all the other things, but that's the big one. So I'm just focusing on that one. With all of that shift, that energy is calling us to say, hey, you don't get to hide behind that story anymore. You have to come out with your full self, because unless and until you do, you're going to be miserable, because you know you're editing yourself. You know you're keeping yourself smaller than you are and smaller than you want to be. And we have to break out of those chains that bind us. And the irony is that we're holding the key to the prison that we live in, but we just don't realize it. And that's that holographic, like what you believe about, you think about, and that's the projection, the image that you're projecting onto your movie screen, and that's what you're creating. So all you got to do is project a different image. Easier said than done, but it is possible. I've seen it. So anyway, all right. I love you. Reach out with any questions, comments that you have, and have a wonderful February.